Hello, friends, family, and keepers of the faith, to another weekly blog by Delboy. Yes, it's year two, blog 18 in legacy numbers. That's blog 70, and it's dated the 25th of the 6th, 2023. And it's been an interesting week. Anybody that's been following me has known that I'm trying to get my holidays down and I'm trying to get more of a routine at work. Um, this last week, I did a 3 day week, just like I did at the beginning of this month. The 3 day week at the beginning of the month was very tiring for me. It included a trip to Bicester, and Thursday tends to then be a sort of a wasted day because I'm falling asleep during the afternoon and all that sort of lovely stuff. Um, this 3 day week, I think, was slightly better, which is an improvement. Still nowhere near what I need to be at. Um, I've extended my walks to see whether building up energy that way, um, sort of like endurance, but that didn't help too much. Um, I think it's just a matter of I've got to grin and bear it. Um, Possibly look at sleep apnea. Can't pronounce that very well. I do apologise. The weather hasn't helped, although a lot of people talk about the weather, and I just want to say that the weather I tend to not moan about the weather too much. It is what it is. It's that thing that was driven into me at a very early age. There are things that you can change, and there are things you can't change. If you don't like it, leave the country. You know what I mean? So I've never really that bothered. But with hypertension, which is high blood pressure, you tend to feel that you're a little bit susceptible um, to heat a little bit. I tend to find that in the winter, I don't feel the cold quite as much as somebody else. In the summer, I feel the heat more because I'm quite, therefore, warm blooded. Um, so it can be uncomfortable. And of course, weight comes into it. Anybody that has been weighty will tell you that it's not nice because just getting in and out of a chair sometimes can be difficult. You're putting strain on your joints, but also in hot temperatures, you have that embarrassment of sweaty armpits or that, generally you feel more uncomfortable than you feel uncomfortable anyway for being quite weighty. So I don't have any sensible answers for that other than you what I need to do is sort of like love myself, believe that being healthy is something that I should try and try and do, and do it because having life and living is a blessing. The alternative is not great, and from that point of view, you should make yourself adaptable to change. And one of those things is that you need to keep yourself healthy um, to live. So I'll leave it there with that as an opener because I'm no good at thinking good about myself. I hate talking about myself. It's one of those things that I did this channel um, to get over those sorts of things. Like my friend who bought a tarantula because he was scared of spiders and he wanted to get over his arachnophobia. Um, I don't like talking about myself, and that's what I do in these blogs. So, it's one of those things where I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable about my body. I'll always think that I've been hit with the ugly stick, that other people have managed to find their partners, but probably because they're handsome or got more confidence or whatever. Um, and that I'm just not that confident in myself. So, confidence is something sometimes that I believe comes from others, but it must also come from yourself. And I probably weigh too much on the can you give me a bit of confidence? Too much. I've got to get it from myself. So, anyway, enough about that. We'll come across the news. It's how we date this blog. I have no real opinion on it. I read articles to date stamp this blog so that future watchers know what was going on in my mind at the same time as world news was going on. So we come to the war. And remember also that I do this in my own handwriting. So sometimes I might not get this correct, but I'm going to try and put it in my face and see if I can um, do it better this time. But it's always difficult with Ukrainian war stories. So here we go. The war. Ukrainian dared to dream that Wagner action could be fatal blow in the war. Chaos' long-awaited counter-offensive has been slow, but a mutiny in the Russian lines looks like changing it all. When news of a potential civil war in Russia circulated across the country, it was a struggle for Ukraine to believe it was real. But on Saturday morning, and you have to remember it could be Wagner or Wagner mercenary troops turned about face with armored vehicles now aimed at Moscow, and Ukrainians were glued for news on their mobile phones. The advance on Moscow has now stopped. The Ukrainian hopes of internal unrest has risen and a new hope gained. Yes, I read this and I thought it was very interesting because obviously there's civil unrest in a lot of countries. Um, I believe that Moscow lives in fear. If you say something, the government's all over it. They'll make your life miserable, even kill you. We've seen it in the past. We know it's a possibility. And to live in that particular environment, I couldn't. Um, I would have to go. I know that. So, yes, a possibility of two sides at Moscow, one for the war, one not for the war, could be a major player in how this war ends. So I'll be watching that avidly, just like the Ukrainians were on Saturday. So that was great. And the big story of this week was the Titanic sub that happened all this week. We knew that there was lots of oxygen that would help with a rescue. But I read this and it made me very sad. Um, and it went with the sub. So implosion now declared as the reason for the Titanic sub's fate. Sonic evidence, along with debris field, has closed the book on the reason, but not the cause. And I put at the end, rest in peace to all the crew and the passengers of that ill-fated sub. Yes, it was a very expensive piece of equipment. It was very expensive to go down there and see the Titanic. I can see the allure to go and see the Titanic. Um, what I don't understand with these things, and maybe it's because I didn't read enough up on this particular sub vehicle, was that it didn't have a sister ship. Um, so they went down there, it imploded, and from the articles I've read, it would have been a quick death, which I'm thankful for. Um, but if this was something there, they could have been down there for days. It seemed like it was taking days to get any type of action going. Surely a sister ship, a ship where you've got a backup, would have been something that would have been a necessity and a need to do any of this stuff. But that's just my own pure feelings on that. It's a disaster, a very sad one, and my thoughts are with the family at this time. Um, so that was the news. Just gonna have a bit of a drink now. Just to say again, my supermarket doesn't have the oranges that I normally have. So I'm going to have to look elsewhere. They have told me there's a bit of a shortage. They came in during the week. They went out during the week. I was working. So again, at the weekend, there are none. There are other oranges, but I've tried those before and they don't taste very nice. So you'll see me drinking out of a can today. Bad, really. But then I think after this blog, I'll probably go into the car and go to another supermarket. So dry. You'll probably see me doing that a little bit today. So the shout outs, I love the shout outs. The shout outs to me, um, it's just always nice to pay homage to people that wish me well, that leave a comment, that ask me questions. It gives me something to look forward to at the weekend. It's my pleasure to read out a name because it's not a name of shame, it's a name of thank you so much, appreciation. So the shout outs this week are, and hopefully I've not missed anybody because I've done 2 videos this week. They are Martroid, Robert's Retro Gaming, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Playtendo Guy, David's Retro Games Play Badly, Rock God 2004, Jambon, Colin Jones, Denny, Stevie Paperboy, Seb's Place, Milfy Swinbuckle, Steve's Gaming, Doug Scullery, and Delta Carl. And every single one of them has wished me well. Some of them have asked me questions. As you know, we will be moving to the questions next, and you can listen to their thoughts. So, where shall we start then? We'll start with the questions for this week. They're not in any particular order. What I've done is I've made sure that there are no filters in place and that I've clicked on newest first. So right at the top here, it's got Delta Carl. Um, Hi Del, thanks for answering my previous questions. Good to hear that your slow return to work is getting there and you've had no adverse effects. Here's some new questions for you. I'm not sure if this has been asked before. What is your favourite board game, e.g. Monopoly, Mousetrap, etc.? Also, is there a board game that you wanted as a child but you never got it? Um, so we'll answer that one first because it looks like there's another one. It has been asked before, but it was in a different context. Um, I did mention that my childhood at the very beginning, before I moved into this particular house, and I moved into this house at the age of 8, I think it was, um, meant that I moved away from a lot of the children that I grew up in our street, and there were less children in this street. So board games was something that I'd have loved to do a lot more of, but my sister is 18 months older than me and she wanted to do girly things. Wasn't really interested in board games. I think the only time that we played games together was if we were on long trips to, holiday destinations where we might have a travel Connect 4 or something like that. I mentioned board games as my favourite was, I think at the time I said it was backgammon, where I learned backgammon. I loved chess, didn't really play drafts, played dominoes a bit, but when it comes to kiddie board games, we did have a copy of Risk, We did have a copy of Monopoly, Game of Life, Mousetrap, which was atrocious. Operation. I think we had Jaws and Buckaroo. Yeah. We probably had a lot more, but you have to have another player. And this is where it gets difficult because how are you going to get your sister to say, yeah, let's play a good game of Risk? Like, that's going to work. Monopoly. Not, they're longish games. And I don't think my sister was really into sort of like estate agents and things. No. And games like Buckaroo and Jaws, which would have had a okay at the beginning point of view for my sister, would have quickly dwindled because it was like, oh, it's unfair me hooking this out. It's all done by the strength of the elastic band and what items that you pull out. At the end of the day, do I care? And I don't know whether I took all of that as being you just don't want to lose, or whether she just felt it's childish and that 18 months was critical. So, board games didn't really happen, but I loved them. I loved the idea of them. I liked the shiny pieces. I liked the length that it would take to actually do something like Monopoly. That was a good one. Uh, so I hope that's answered that. You go on, excluding the threat of nuclear war, which everyone around our age was scared of. Can you think of a news story, reported event too close to home? That felt too close to home, I think you were trying to say there, and made you scared for yourself or family friends. Thinking of things like riots that occurred in many cities in the 80s and the Yorkshire Ripper, etc. I suppose there has been times where my mother must have felt that, especially about the Yorkshire Ripper. We are in the Midlands. We're in a sort of sleepy town, but the same crimes that go on in other towns and cities happen here as well. And I was never scared of riots. But when I was going into town and having a drink and, hopefully meet a life partner or whatever, the things that you do as a lad, I saw a lot of drugs going on, stuff that was offered to me. Um, and I saw a lot of fights and punch ups. And me being the nosy person would always go to the bouncer and say, "What started all that off then?" And then they'd say, "Oh, how it is, arguments between the girlfriend and the boyfriend, and flirting and all that sort of stuff." And I go, "Oh yeah, 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 okay." So I don't really remember something that happened in the news, but whenever something happened like a big pile up on a motorway or a train that derailed or something like that, and I was going on a trip shortly, I got a little bit more spider senses tingling, if you see what I mean, type thing, like, oh, could that happen to me? I do remember there was a story that my friend told me back in the 90s where there was a nice guy in our town and he fell into bad rapport, inclined to take drugs, um, turned into a drug mule, um, went into another habit of drugs, got into debt with money, um, and something really bad happened to him. Now, this was in the news for our town. Um, The people that he owed money to tied him, beat him up, tied him to the back of a car, um, and drove the car up one of our tallest hills at 20 miles an hour. And then the top of this hill is the hospital that I live very close to. Dumped him outside the hospital and left him to die. Um, he didn't die. Um, he had no use of his right arm and his right leg, I believe, and he'd the scraping along the road had taken away 20 or 30% of the skin on his face, and it went down to the bone on his skull, and that scared me. It scared me that there are people out there that could do something like that. Not a happy memory. Something that I can't remember the name of the poor guy. But that's the world we live in. My God, not great, is it? So I hope that's answered. Oh, and he's got another one. Sorry, what am I doing? Look, to lighten the mood, do you have a favourite Carry On movie? Do you know what? So hard for me to answer questions on films because I've got favourites but can't do top tens. I love the Carry On films. The black and when it comes to the black and white Carry On films, Carry On Cabby is my favourite. But then when it gets to the colour ones, I think we have to go to the late 60s and early 70s for the ones that I have, affection for. I think we all love Carry On Camping. Um, Always a funny one. I like personally Carry On Henry. Uh, Carry On Dick is even quite funny. Um, but they're all funny in their own ways. You'd think I'd have a favourite of the hospital ones, like the doctors and so forth. But they did quite a few of those. Um, I, although it gets a bad rep, and there are certainly people who love it, I'm not a great one of Carry On at Your Convenience. Really, although it is extremely funny. It's just that I think I bend towards more the Sid James stories. Um, I mean, I don't think anybody could turn around and say that Carry On Cleo is unfunny. Carry On Up the Khyber is not funny. Um, and there are so many that Sid James was in, but when you had your favourite characters in, and there was always one that was not in this particular one, um, you always felt a bit sad because they couldn't have them all in, all to do with money and all to do with their actual lives at trying to earn a living. So they might be doing theatre that would stop them from recording. So I hope that's answered it. Definitely Carry On Cabby as the black and white ones. Probably Carry On Camping as the colour ones. Um, but I've named some, like Carry On Screaming is brilliant. I've named some skirt ones that I think are absolutely brilliant. Um, I always tell people if you want to see a quintessential Carry On film, watch Carry On Camping, Carry On Cleo, Carry On Screaming. And I used to say that to people in a hope that that'll give you a feel. And then broaden. Look at the earlier ones, look at the later ones. There is something in all of them, but the later ones really, you do see the demise. That's how I've always worded it. So thank you very much, Elder Carl. That was a brilliant question. Thank you so much. We move to Jambon after I've had a bit of a swig. Better. Hi, Del. Thanks for another great blog. Particularly enjoyed the discussion on Spider Man's enemies. The vulture and the lizard were the ones that stood out to me as a kid, I think. Probably because I was into animals and possibly because they were bright green. I think my comment on your previous vlog has been deleted, so I'll keep this one short in case it gets deleted too. Yeah, again, I've seen this across the board. It's not happening just to me. Bear with it, guys. If you've got a particular group that you like to chat with, you've always got Messenger or some other method or email that possibly might help you here. I certainly have such a small group that people do have other means of getting in touch with me. So, but there's very little that I can do other than just keep checking my filters and make sure that nobody's been unfairly moved into a sin bin of some sort that I'm not aware of. And yes, it's interesting that you say about creatures and enemies and animals and so forth. I think Spider-Man's probably greatest array has been animals. You've got the rhino, the vulture, puma, um, all animal related there. One of his enemies is the fly. So I think the lizard, the iguana. See, without even thinking too deep, you've got this idea that because he's a spider, he's against enemies that are also creature orientated. And there was a particular story that actually addressed that as well. So I'm glad that brought you some joy. I have a rambly and not very good question if you don't mind, but feel free to ignore. I don't know much about comics, so would be interested on your take on this. Were you around when superheroes went from being bright and fun and exciting to dark and gritty? Did you prefer it when they got a bit more serious, or did it turn you off at all? I guess most superheroes have always had their dark sides. Seems like they've all got issues, but hopefully you know what I mean. Yes, I think a lot of people will turn around and say that there is this line that was crossed, that then other um, publications followed suit, and that was The Dark Knight, a Batman story, which was very gritty, very dark, very adult orientated. If it's not that, it's Watchmen. Again, telling a story of superheroes in a different light than the colourful, often animated in your head battles that the individual comics and stories went through. Spider-Man went through its own dark period. Um, and Spider-Man is one of those ones where I felt has been a very psychological character. Norman Osborn being the Green Goblin introduced a psychotic and psychological element. Um, then came along someone called the Jackal, which again is a psychological story because the Jackal turned out to be a teacher of Peter Parker and somebody who was in love with Gwen Stacy, and he blamed Spider-Man for the death of Gwen Stacy, even though it wasn't his fault. And when he found out that Spider-Man was Peter Parker, created all-out war. Mysterio has always used psychology and sleight of hand and illusion to cause problems for our hero. So he goes on and on and on and on and on a little bit. But there was a very deep and dark story called Craven's Last Hunt, where Craven got sick of losing to Spider-Man and decided to turn against um, his turning on prey like lions and alligators and crocodiles. Concentrate totally on Spider-Man, and he thought the way to do that was to be Spider-Man. So he sort of like framed Spider-Man on a number of things that were going on. He then killed Spider-Man, or led to believe that he killed him. What he did was he drugged him and buried him 6 foot under. and Spider-Man managed to crawl out of the grave. Just, but while that was going on and Craven was laughing at his own success, he knew that there was nowhere else for him to go, because that had been his life. That his life had been being better and being the tracker of all creatures and the winner. So he blew his own head off. And that's a very dark story. And one that was in the mid-80s, which is around that time that Batman turned dark. I don't mind a dark story, but you've got to intermix it with something that's more what we're accustomed to. If anybody has had problems in their life, what tends to happen is that a compoundation sort of occurs. A problem leads on to another problem that leads on to another problem. And you just think to yourself, if I could fix just one of these problems, if I could just have a good news story, if I could just build my confidence up, I could, these other things that are now piling on top of me will become much easier for me to face. But what tends to happen is that if you get too many, like 5 problems all stacked on top of each other, you tend to find you go into a decline very quickly. So that being said, I think it answers your question, Jambon, that there have been some dark stories, but they've got to be intermingled with some good. And thank you very much for that question. Very insightful. Thank you. Brilliant. We move to Steve's Gaming. We do our salute to Steve's Gaming. Salute, Steve, you shit. Right now, we love Steve. Hi, Del. Another good one. It's been a bad week for me, to be honest, but still not well. The heat is killing me. And I had a painful dentist visit on Thursday, so not good. I'm so sorry to hear that, Steve. I always try and raise a smile for you. I hope I do that in my own silly, childish way. But I wish you all the best. I'm sorry for your loss, mate. It's always really painful to lose people you respect and look up to, even if you never met them. Call me soft, but I actually shed a few tears a couple of years ago when I learned of the passing of some of my heroes. Ed Bishop, Dennis Waterman, David Bowie, George Harrison, and more, even though I never met them. Yes. So we talked about John Romita Sr., who was a childhood artist hero of mine, who spoke to me with his artistry in the books that I was reading as a child. And I've continued every week, every month, to continue to buy those books. And you get to the age of over 50 and you realize that your heroes were in their 30s when they were drawing something, and therefore they're getting very close to the end of their expected life, and that they are going to leave and die at some point. And I touched upon some of the things, for me it's the loss of never being able to meet him, never see another drawing done by him, etc., etc. But as my mum pointed out, he left a legacy. And that legacy is something that I can always look on and go, wow. And I own it, and it's not going anywhere. And so that's just brilliant, isn't it? That you can say that. And that's one of the reasons for this blog, is to leave a legacy behind, so that people can remember how I sounded, how I looked, what was going on in my life. And when I'm gone, and if somebody is missing this crappy voice of mine, they've got a way to do it. So that's great. A question for you. Have you ever bought a game that when you opened it, there was no game inside? Oh, God. This has happened to me twice. Both were sealed PlayStation 4 games. I opened them up and no disc inside. Have you ever had that? I dare say I have, but not one comes to mind. I did with a film. Now, that happened with a film, for definite. It was It was a Star Trek one. I think it was one of the TV series box sets. There was a disc missing. I've definitely got home and found that the tape when I was having my 8-bit games wasn't the right tape. I remember buying a Commodore 64 game. I think it was Tales of the Arabian Nights. And I walked home. When I got back, it was a Spectrum game. Bloody useless. I had to walk all the way back and explain it. And the numbers were just the wrong way round, a 6 and a 9. You know, it is, do you read it this way? Do you read it that way? Because they used to have all the tapes out the back and you only had the empty cases out the front. And this was W.H. Smith's approach to selling their games in the early days. So that happened to me for definite. But I don't think I've had many later games, PS4 games, that sort of thing, with no discs in. But then again, I'm the worst to ask because I've still got a ton of PS4 games that are still in the cellophane. I haven't opened them, and that's bad because I should have made a valid choice just to check that the discs are okay. You know, that there's no smash, no scratches, no dents, no breaks. But you know, it is what it is, and I will get round to doing that. So thank you so much, Steve. My salute to you. Get well soon. You're in my thoughts, matey. And thank you so much for all of your content. So we move to LFC Gamer. Hi, Dell. Thank you so much for your answers. And again, a great video. Fantastic response regarding how easy or hard certain aspects are when you're producing a blog. And that got me thinking what it's like from my own point of view. Yeah, I hope it does. I hope it gives you some insights. Everybody will have their own favourite parts of doing their blog, and other people will have the bits where they dread or having difficulty. And mine is always going to be, if there's not enough questions, what topic am I going to raise? But let's see what you say. The easiest topic for me are the pickups, since it's effortless, showing people what random items you've obtained, and doesn't require as much brainstorming as other subjects, even including the footy talk. The hardest part is usually finding a perfect time to record when I'm not in the office or stuck at home doing stuff related to work. This is why I don't have an upload schedule. What is one of those anyway? Yes, Mainmeister taught me at the very early stage that sometimes having a set time to have something up or being broadcast can be a double-edged sword, because it forces you to do something by a particular time, but also you're trapped by your own success, because then people will expect it, such as every Sunday do a live stream, every Friday do a waffle. These are some of the things that I know that Mainmeister has, and it is tricky, isn't it? Because you then go, oh, it's approaching Friday, what am I going to do? Nothing's happened, or I've been so busy with this that I haven't thought of anything, and you fall into a trap. So I had to do this on a Sunday because it's a weekend blog, and I always count Sunday as being the weekend. I also like the authenticity that I do it on the Sunday as well. But I could record it on the Saturday. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still the end of the week. I think it would be a bit bad if I did it on the Friday for the Sunday, but there will be times where a weekend I'm going to be away or doing something. And when that occurs, how am I going to get the blog in? And I have to think about that close to the time, but it will happen. So you've got some questions for the next blog. That's smashing. Thank you so much for doing these. Is there one bad use of grammar that you see which rubs you the wrong way? An example that springs to mind and aggravates me to no end is should have, instead of actually being should have. I've made that mistake in the past, as I once got absolutely bollocked by one of my English teachers at school. I have to think about this a little bit, And I don't really think or try to address grammar too much, because what tends to happen with me is that I'm using my phone an awful lot and I'm not the quickest on it, and they've changed predictive text, and sometimes words will go in and I didn't type that, and it makes you look stupid. And I'm also one of those people that won't proofread it. I'll hit send, then I'll read it, then I'll click on the edit button and go back and edit it. And it's all to do with time, really. And I think the times where I think about grammar is where it's other people's blogs or other people's content, or watching a TV program where I think they should refer to themselves as I, and they don't. They go me or something like that. And so I suppose that's probably the bugbear that I've got. But it's so small, it's minuscule, it's not even worth mentioning. So, sorry, that's not going to be a big answer for you. Number two, if you had to get rid of one of the three things I mentioned, which would you choose? Dizzy spells, hay fever, or is that phlegm? I'd have to look that one up because I don't know quite what that is. Um, I suppose when somebody asks me a question like that, the thing that goes through my mind is, what's the commonality? So you can get dizzy spells with hay fever, but you can get dizzy spells for other reasons. Hay fever is a bit more specific. I'm guessing I'm pronouncing it probably wrong. Phlegm? Higgleham? I can't pronounce that. I do apologise. It's probably also specific. So I'm going to go with the one that you mentioned as being dizzy spells, because if you got rid of dizzy spells, it might make your hay fever a little bit better, being as you could get dizzy spells with that. And I also know that dizzy spells happen to me when I'm too hot, when I've taken my medication. We've seen it in my blogs before. I start to move a bit erratic. My speech changes. Um, Dizzy spells has such an adverse effect on people's lives that I'm going to go with dizzy spells. And I hope that I've given a subjective answer to that one. Thank you so much. And your last question, I really didn't want to bring Footgate, you said, but I think you mean Foodgate. Didn't want to bring Foodgate back, but this time I couldn't resist. What is your favourite way of eating a potato? Boiled, roasted, mashed, or fried? Do you know what? I love them all. But let me think, I can only have one. Remember, I can only have one. Boiled, roasted, mashed, or fried. Well, I'm going to go for a toss-up between boiled and roasted, because I love a roast dinner. And you can have boiled and roasted on your roast dinner. And I'm going to tip it to roasted. There's nothing I like better than roasted potatoes with a bit of mint sauce on and gravy. Boiled's great because you can have it with salads and you can have it on your roast dinner. No, I don't know of anybody that doesn't like fries or chips. And I used to love sausage and mash. And I love a boiled spud, jacket spud. So that again is to me roasted, because I don't water boil a jacket spud. I roast them in the oven. So I'm going to go with roasted. Yeah, too many there for me to not like roasted potatoes. Thank you so much. That made me think, made me bloody hungry again. This bloody git. But there we go. Thanks very much. Salute to you, FC, and so looking forward to your next blog. Love the stuff. Looking forward to your predictions of where my team might be uh, in the season coming up in August. So Coventry are still in the same division. That means they'll be starting 1 or 2 weeks before the Premiership. I always tend to find the Championship more exciting anyway. I don't know whether you've ever mentioned that yourself, whether you've liked the lower team games or the higher tier games. Knowing that your team is in the Premiership, I'm going to guess that you like the Premiership. But there's a lot of enjoyment in the lower tiers. I recommend going there. I even have great enjoyment walking through the park and watching in the autumn all the school kids started to play Sunday football. Great, just watching them, just watching young lads and young ladies playing football is great. Definitely something to do this year if you haven't. Colin or Ponder, thank you so much, matey. You know I love every time that you leave a comment. I know that it's been great for you the last couple of weeks because you've been able to appreciate the weather a lot more with your big swimming pool that we're all very jealous about. So well, let's see what you've got to say. I get a bad taste in my mouth whenever I mention the Daily Mail, even on the rare occurrences that they're actually right. Yeah, do you know what? I used to buy the Daily Mail when I was living in Manchester only on a Saturday, and it was because I wanted the TV guide. Hated the paper, but it had the best TV guide you could get before we had, the Sky teleprompt telling you what the next program is and what the next 24 hours programs are, the programming schedule. TV guides were a thing, and I wouldn't buy the radio times or the TV times only at Christmas. So every Saturday I would walk to the newsagent and I would buy the Daily Mail for the TV guide. And I was quite inclined to actually take the TV guide out of it and stick the paper in the wastebasket outside the newsagent, or give it to someone and say, I don't want that bit, I just want this. So I'm with you a little bit there. Boris was a firm backer of Brexit, so that problem was of his own making. The fact he's also a very unconvincing and obvious liar was his eventual downfall, though, in my opinion. And I can't fault your opinion. We've all got our opinion of Boris. Um, my particular instance is that we voted him in. It's a democratic system. And I think a lot of people saw a lot of get up and go in him. And I think that's probably what the Conservatives needed. At that particular time, Labour were in definitely down spiral, down, going down the ladder rapidly, down the snakes and ladders board. So down the snakes with his his Semitic beliefs, his, all about the Jews and so forth. Yeah, and they felt that there was a lot of that going on in the Labour party. So we didn't really have much of a choice. I always tend to find that's the problem. Not enough choice. The choices that we got, I wouldn't choose personally myself. But that's how it is. I'm not very political. I'm so sorry there, Colin. There are some of us who watch all the way through, even if it takes several sittings. I've got no problem, Colin. Some people are bringing that up a lot. I don't ever expect anybody to watch anything I do in one sitting, short or long. And my weekend blog is a long blog, and I've settled for this format because I've got so much to say, and then it gives me less to do during the week. If I feel like I'm shortchanging a little bit when I do it a bit shorter. So yeah, Screwdriver is in absolute bits. Yes, I've showed off my screwdriver set. It's still here. I haven't moved it. Lovely, lovely electrical thing. It really is. And then I looked purposely when I did that. I looked for the one that replaced it because obviously I told Amazon it didn't arrive, and I chose something else. And I don't have it around me to show you. No, sorry about that. I might show you next time if you're interested. Although screwdrivers, I'm pretty sure, is boring the pants off of people. I need to start watching Strange New Worlds, maybe tomorrow, but I'm so busy being out in the weather, it's hard to find time for indoor activities. E.g., it's taken me all day to watch this blog and no other YouTube video. Well, I feel honoured that you spent time just watching me, matey. Thank you so much. And like I say, anybody that listens or watches, thank you so much. It is just the ramblings of one particular madman, myself. And it's nice that you want an insight into what my opinions are. So that's great. So my question for the next blog is a simple one. Dishwasher or hand washing? To be quite honest, Colin, I've never owned a dishwasher. And the only time I've ever used a dishwasher is when I've been at somebody else's house or been in an office where there is a communal dishwasher for people that drink coffee in the office. So I've always been brought up as hand washing. My mother gave it me as a task to do if I did something wrong. It would be something that you needed to do during the week if it was your turn. There would be washing and drying and putting away. I'm sure we've all had that if you're of a certain age. Dishwashers are great. I think if you've got the money, brilliant. They probably have much better hygiene rating than hand washing because you can miss with hand washing. Dishwashing has cycles where you go through several of them, and as long as you remember to put the dishwasher liquid in it, you're going to get a good wash. But no, never had the money to buy one. And I did offer to buy one for my mother when I sold my house and moved into this. I said, Mother, what would you like from part of the house sale, being as I'm now living in part of this house? And she didn't. I said, I talked about dishwashers, and she said, no, I could do that myself. Who wants that rubbish? I think she settled on carpets. There you go. That's my mother. She's very proud. She likes when people walk through the door that she sees a clean environment. That's why we have so much any arguments about my room. But my room is a problem in the fact that I have no space. And I've got to address that at some point. Sell it, I dare say. It's a losing battle, and it's a losing battle every minute of the day with me. Thank you so much, Colin, for that one. That was brilliant. Milfy Swimbuckle we come to now. We know we love Milfy Swimbuckle. Steadfast guy, person who always has a question for me, leaving a comment. Strong words in regards to the enjoyment of my blog or whatever. So, hello again, Del. So we'll read this out. We all need humbling at times, and I'm afraid this week it's time for you to be knocked down a peg or two from your high and mighty perch. My God, have I ever been on a mighty high perch? No. To do this, I've given you some painful things to say here. Read them out and give yourself a score of 1 to 10. 1 being comfortable and 10 being so that you want to rip out your tongue. How painful are these things I ask you to read out? Well, after I'd typed them up, I then proceeded to cut off my own fingers. Don't worry, I guess they'll grow back in time. I think you're going to be in for some disappointment there, Milfy. I've put them in what I consider least painful first at number 1 to the last at 5, which is truly monstrously vile. Yes, okay. Let me get a drink before I attempt this. So 1 is comfortable to say, 10 is uncomfortable. Number 1, Scotland have a great football team. my face. Gonna give that a 5. No, seriously. They've got a much better team. They haven't got a great team. Um, then again, nor is England. So, wrong person probably to ask with football. Number 2, China Miner is a fantastic game. Oh my God. How happy am I saying that? A 3. 1 being comfortable and 10 being so that you want to rip out your tongue. No, sorry. So, 7. It's not a fantastic game. I wanted to throw the joystick at the wall trying to play it back in my youth. I got so far and then gave up and said I never want to see that game again. And it was only through Mainmeister that I actually got to see it again. 7. 7, yes. I nearly want to rip out my tongue saying that. Yeah, it's got its. The reason it's not a 10 is because it's classic. It has its place, and just because a game is challenging, um, you shouldn't dismiss it. But it's to the point of frustration with that game. You really have to have the patience. Number 3, the C64 game Ghouls is the fairest, most playable game ever made. Oh my God, 9, 10, 9, 10. God, that game. As soon as I tried to play that game, by the way, anybody who doesn't know what Ghouls is, and I'm hoping I've got it right in my head, it's like a Pac-Man with legs. And you've got to get from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. And there's this annoying little creature that goes so slowly that he has to almost touch you and you have to go round him and jump over him. And he follows. It is the most unfairest of games. And with a bit of thought, it could have been a good game because one of the other problems is it moves so fast that you just accidentally touch into things that kill you. It is undeniably annoying. So there we are. I hope I got the right number for that. Number 4. I wish I was as handsome as Mainmeister and Panther UK. Remember to be humbled. You've got to say it sincerely. I feel a 9 coming on with that one. Do I feel comfortable saying that? Not at all. Mainmeister, I think he said it himself, got a face for radio. And then on radio, you only hear his voice and you can't understand the bloody word he's saying. Panther, well, I feel sorry that he went through that revolving door and it just kept going round and round and smacking him in the face. But saying that, I'm not exactly Michael Douglas or Tom Cruise, more like his brother, C. Cruise. So it's a 9 for me on whether I feel comfortable saying that. Yeah. The last one, 5. And you consider this to be the hardest one for me to come out with. I will cry and cry and cry some more if I don't get to play Rainbow Islands right now. Oh yeah, that's a 10. Because no way am I going to cry and cry and cry. In fact, I wouldn't care really if I never saw the game again. I'm not quite as adverse against it as I think, and I have to guess here, of Mainmeister and Panther's opinion on it. At the very, I don't have a problem with the mechanic either, or the cuteness. It's just boring. I don't also believe that if you got rid of the rainbow mechanic and turned it into a gun, that would work because that would be just a run and jump. Rainbow Island tried to be daring and being something different. and nobody can question how it looks, really, because the audience, you got to remember the audience it was for. Bubble Bobble was cutesy, Puzzle Bobble's cutesy, Parasol Stars is cutesy, so it followed in its same vein. In Japan, they love cutesy. What can we say? It could have gone under another name. They could have recoded it, the graphics, got rid of the mechanic and changed it to a gun. I don't think anybody would have batted an eyelid over here. But you specifically wanted me to read these out at a score 1 to 10, 10 being I want to rip out my tongue. That one is a 9. That's a 10. Yeah. And if I've upset you, Mainmeister and Panther, I do apologise. But you know, you if you think you're handsome, think again. I guess you're not. Right, moving on from that, because that bombshell. Um, David's retro game played badly. Keeping me company at work as usual. Still playing Fallout New Vegas when I get a chance. Favourite arcade machine artwork, probably Space Invaders, Bubble Bobble and Gauntlet. Can't fault those, matey. Brilliant. Was never much of a fan of the Ultimate games. No, and nor was I. I was a Commodore 64 player. But you're a Spectrum player, so it's interesting to note that you weren't that much of a fan of theirs when a lot of them consider them to be the quintessential company for that machine. Glad I liked you smile, mate. I think you made me smile, mate. Yeah, that's brilliant. Off to chuck a laptop down the stairs. Yes, I've I've had to turn around and start using the hard drives out of them and put them into enclosures because I've got too many of them. I can't keep up with the turning them on and updating them and all of that sort of stuff. Rest in peace. Any other laptops I'll be taking to bits this week. Going to order that ZX Nightmares when I have some spare pennies. I think that will do you a world of good, matey. I think from what people have said about it, they're loving it. You're definitely a Spectrum player, so I think you'll get great enjoyment from it. Definitely one for the old magazine rack, book rack, coffee table. I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show last week, so you watched it at the same time as me. That's brilliant. Deal or no deal, not my thing at all. No, not for me either. It was one of those ones that I mentioned because he was into that Scientology or astrology thing. I think he had a tattoo put on it before he started doing the show, all sorts of stuff. No. Some awesome Spider-Man artwork, mate. Enjoyed that. I'm so glad you did. I don't try to force things onto people. I chose a couple of pictures that I had digitized. Just wanted to show off the man's art, really. It speaks to me. It's not going to speak to everybody. Huge fan of Alien. Yeah, that was a stupid mistake. But I don't know how many people have done that themselves. If they bought films for a medium that they haven't got. So that particular 40th anniversary edition came out when I didn't have a 4K telly. So I bought the Blu-ray. Of course, me then buying the 4K meant I looked back, and now the price is astronomical. So it'll come out again. I'm not that worried. I am not a number. I'm a free man. Yes, and aren't we all? Although I wouldn't mind being number 6. That's the Prisoner reference, by the way. And let's do the time warp again. Why not? Let's all do the time warp again. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's entertaining. Love all that bullet pointing stuff. That's great. Steve's wished me well. Steve Paperboy, he's put good stuff down. Robert's Retro Gaming also, no questions, but a couple of nice little comments. I forgot to say that I'm glad you found my Minecraft frustrations amusing. You're not the only one who's told me that. Matey, all your videos are entertaining. When I was playing Minecraft, I myself got tips for it. I'm not playing it at the moment. I'm sure that you're giving boundless information with just you playing a game. And and long may that continue, matey. Brilliant stuff. Fun clips. Thanks, Boimler in Strange New Worlds. That's a surprise. Not quite sure what that means. Thanks for the blog as always. Have you watched Below Decks? I got quite a kick out of that show. Below Decks is the cartoon, isn't it? And I did, and I bought the 4K steelbook of that, and I watched half a season of it, and it kept meaning to go back because it's a cartoon, but never quite got there. So I'm going to make it my time to do that, because I think they're up to like season 2 or 3 now, I think. And then Rock God said, thank you so much for the shout out, mate. Glad you enjoyed the videos and the live stream. Yes, I go to their panel for movie talk. It's something that I like to do now on a Wednesday. I've started to get a new crowd and talk about something that's a bit different. And I've had a whale of a time. Thank you so much for leaving a comment, Rock God. Salute to you. Hope your missus is okay. Lots of love and respect to your missus. Please pass that on to me. We're all got our fingers crossed for her. And we know full well that she's going to go through this barrier and come out the other end unscathed and stronger for it, matey. Martroid, cheers for answering my question, Dale. I agree that copyright strikes would be an issue if you were to go out. As for playing snippets, etc., which is of course is all part of the fun. I think what we were talking about there was me doing soundtrack snippets in a soundtrack show, and I'm still thinking about that. But yeah, copyright would be an instant problem for me. Playtendo guy, hey mate, brilliant video as always. Really do appreciate the kind words. Yeah, and why not, Playtender? You work hard to show us your collection, your thoughts behind the films that you've watched, giving us a voice on a Wednesday to talk about films. Lots of good stuff there. Thank you so much. And by the way, anybody that's got a link, I do tend to put them in my description box if you'd like me to add yours. Martroid. Cheers for answering my question, Dell. I agree that copyright strikes would be an issue. Yeah. And then the last one is Sebs. Love these ramblings, and I'm finding lots of people to watch too. You mentioned Denny's book video, but I can't find it. Can I have a link, please? Of course you can, matey. I've supplied the link. I hope that's served you well. And that's the end of the questions. My God, thank you. It went a bit screwy towards the end there. Sorry. It's because I read out Martroids again. I should have gone to the one below it. I do apologise. So what do we do now? We usually do what have I watched on TV? What watched on YouTube? This is stuff that is not your own stuff. So this week in retro, as you know, is one I watch religiously every week. Their topics this week was Windows 7, is it retro or not? The lost art of gaming maps. You remember all those maps we used to have of Jet Set Willy, Dynamite Dan, Star for Karnaf, Attic Attack, you name it, there was a map of it. And then remembering Duke Nukem 2D. Yes, of course. How can we forget that Duke Nukem, although went in leaps and bounds as a 3D product, started off as a scrolling platform shooting thing, which was a little bit before my time with PCs because I still had an Amiga then. I moved to the Amiga, the PC, generally 1990, 89, 91, and Duke Nukem was I think a little bit before that time. Definitely EGA and VGA and SVGA were part and parcel of the course, but not Power VR and not Voodoo 3DFX. That was a little bit later for me as well. So yeah, interesting stuff there. Definitely worth a watch. Techmoan did a lovely little article on wall-mounted CD players. Now these were a thing about 15, 20 years ago. where you put in a wall-mounted CD player. If it was a picture disc, you saw it spin round and it made lovely pictures. Or you could put the book art in it, and it would go to your speaker of choice. Now, back in the day, there was no Bluetooth or Wi-Fi capability in these, so you had those horrible wires. That's why I didn't do them myself. But now, with the aid of Bluetooth, we have the ability to do this, and I'm surprised there aren't more of these flying off the shelves. Maybe they are now, but it was an interesting one to watch. LGR, he was finishing off the ultimate oddware tower. Yes, so he's built this tower and he's put lots of things like um, fan adjustment bays, um, graphic equalizer bays, zip drives, 5 1/4 inch drives, 3.5 inch drives, all of that, and put them all in one machine, which was brilliant. Mad you are. You're absolutely mad, LGR. Definitely worth a place. Seb's place, as I mentioned before, he did an 8-bit battle royal between Robocop on the Commodore 64 Spectrum and Amstrad. He deliberated it incredibly well. We'll all have our own opinions. I won't go down what my opinion was, but that was definitely a great watch. Bring Us Studios, he did. Yes, that's right. He bought a Sega arcade machine from Japan and had it shipped over. It was called an Sega Alls machine. And this particular machine was built as part of a 5 machine link up system where it was about betting on horse racing. He bought it as a possibility of having a good gaming rig that was written and created by Sega. What he actually found was it was a PC, bog standard, of the time, with a key pass system to allow you to get to BIOS and some of the advanced features. So not that highly entertaining, but it was entertaining as a show because it was interesting. Because you have to understand that you've got to go on a journey when people are showing you things. I definitely went on a journey when I was watching that. Adam Martin has debated that we're at the end of the era for the red button on terrestrial TV. Yes, if anybody's ever watched ITV, BBC over here lately, you'll always find that there is the button that says press the red button to see an alternative view. And the big red button was designed to replace CFAX and teletext. Had a bit of that, but it also now had a bit of diversity in regards to that it played clips and mini clips of stuff from the past in the BBC. So that was an interesting watch and definitely recommend that. Just want to give a quick shout out to the Wednesday posse. Rock God, Playtendo Guy, Scott, I hope you get better soon. Because I've already mentioned on a Wednesday I watched these video chatty sections, and Rocket God and Playtendo Guy, who was, just happened to be subscribers to my channel, just happened to be the panelists of this show, and I get great enjoyment watching them deliberate on the best slasher flicks, best makeup in a film, the best science fiction element in a film, etc., etc. Definitely worth a blog. And the last one we come to is Magda. So let's see if I can get her first name right. Magdalena. And then it begins with K. And I'm going to stop there because I really still need to practice the surname. Magda has decided to do another couple of videos. She's moved her life away to a new apartment. She is now building her life. She is explaining to us why her legacy is there, why she wants this legacy to live on. Can't fault her. I'm so looking forward to every video. She said she's going to increase her output to one a day or one every 2 days. And God bless you, my dear. Can't wait. Then we get to your YouTube stuff. What I've watched of your guys' stuff. Let me just take a swig. so much better. So, of your stuff, there was not so much this week, but what I watched was brilliant. Down the Rabbit Hole did a couple of videos. He did my Revel Tech Chun-Li figurine. He got a little small figurine of Chun-Li and tried to put her into her famous poses in a game. That was great. And then he talked a little bit about Frontiers, which is a role-playing game. And if you're into that sort of thing, brilliant to watch. Still got some interesting anecdotes in there that relate to real life. So I definitely recommend watching that. Steve's Gaming. I salute to Steve's Gaming. He did a ZX Nightmares Part 2 where he played off Miami Vice, Super Grand Knight Rider, It's a Knockout, amongst a few others. And oh my god, are some of these game stinkers. Absolutely atrocious on that. And then after that, I turned over to Robert's Retro Gaming. He's still in exile, but I did manage to catch a couple of Minecraft and Dwarf Fortress videos. They were absolutely wonderful, Robert. Thank you so much. 20th Century Gaming. Now, the trouble I've got with 20th Century Gaming at the moment is just the alerts are not showing up in time. So he's done a couple of Twitch streams, and the alert has come up late for me. As soon as I get there, it's like 5 minutes from the end. So I do apologise for that, matey, and I'll see what I can do about fixing that. But you did a couple of videos that I watched which made me laugh. You did a game called Spirit of the Stones, which was a Commodore game done in conjunction with our friend from China, Miner. And you put the Benny Hill music called Yakety Sax over the top. I found that highly amusing. I like it when people do things like that. You then did an Isle of the Cursed Planet intro. So there's a new game coming out, and you wanted to show off the intro, which I really, really enjoyed. And then you did a couple of Twitch streams, which I only caught the end. I will make better efforts to be able to see those for you next time, Mark. And then finally, we've got LFC Gamer and Vlogs, who did a blog about the summer, buying a Frasier book. I think it was the scripts to Frasier, and some football insights. Brilliant. Always willing, always love hearing people's opinions on those. And I just want to end with your YouTube section with Mainmeister by saying get well soon. He's couldn't do anything last weekend because he was doing a cross-country run with a colleague to help pace that particular runner. And he came back feeling very unwell, and he's been out of action all week. But we hope to see you again soon, and my thoughts are with you at this moment, Mainmeister. Thank you so much. And we then get to what I watched on TV. And there hasn't been an awful lot, to be quite honest. I watched snippets of Glastonbury yesterday and Friday. I'll be watching a lot more tonight because Elton John is doing a set, and it's part of his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I'm finished with Touring Tour, which he's doing. I watched season 2, episode 2 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which I enjoyed immensely because it was more character driven and had a little bit of racism and diversity in it, which didn't spoil it too much. I watched episodes 3 and 4 of The Ark on Sci-Fi Sky. The Ark is turning into that formulatic piece that I said it might. It's still entertaining. I will continue to watch it. There are only 10 episodes. It has been renewed for a second season. But it is incredibly formulatic. I watched, therefore, the new Marvel production of Secret Invasion. So on Disney, we've got season 1, episode 1. They're not dropping them all at one go. They're going to do it weekly. I think that was a good, clever thing to do. I enjoyed episode 1. There is a death. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to know that there's a death. I won't say who it is. It was a very poignant piece. And I'm looking forward to next week. And then I saw an amazing documentary that was only done this year, just called Stanley. And they've used multi different ways to tell the tale of Stan Lee from inception to death. So definitely worth a watch. That's on the Disney Channel, and it's a documentary. And that's the end of the blog. Other than the bits that I always end on, which is what I show you, some media playback, etc., etc. So we'll do the books first. So I told you about my damaged book of X-Men. It's actually come in now. You can see the spine is now repaired. There's no problems, no indents going on in the pages that you see there. No blunting. And when you're paying this much money for a book, all those things are very important. Usually I do this on another camera, so let's change camera. Sorry, here we go. No, it's been in the news recently, and I've been mentioning it as part of my blog that a company called Network went into liquidation a couple of weeks ago, and it meant that many timeless TV series that were now starting to get Blu-ray releases are now on hold. You can't get them for love nor money. I started to backtrack over my collection and replace Blu-rays with 4K or DVDs with Blu-ray, depending on what the thing is. So I'm glad that Hammer House of Horror finally came through. I think it's 13 episodes. 13, yes. Sort of like not enough for a Hammer horror film, but enough for a series. And it was really quite nice and great, and I get great enjoyment watching those. This week turned up Chevy Chase's National Lampoon's Vacation, which is the original 80s version that went off to do European Vacation, Christmas Vacation, all of those. Always a fun to watch. I'm looking forward to this one in 4K. I haven't seen it in a number of years. And then we've got Arrow's rendition of Waterworld. And I've got Waterworld in several different formats, but I haven't got a 4K version. And I have to say, it's not as bad as what people think. It's one of those ones that you've got to put your focus brain on hold and go and ask that particular question. What would it be like to have no land? What if we all lived on the sea? What if there was a mystical land? Would you try and find it for yourself? It's a great film, really. It's just, of its time, I think a lot of people just didn't get it. Okay, and then what was I going to do? Play some media, wasn't I? So let's go down to here. And I'm going to play you some videos now. I'm going to turn the microphone off. I hope you enjoy some of these clips. They're clips of things that I've seen this week or going to see this week or stuff that I've just bought. I hope you enjoy them. See you on the other side.
The future. The polar ice caps have melted, covering the Earth with water. Those who survive have adapted to a new world.
California in the morning, the big vacation, the whole family, Wally World.
If you're thinking of taking the tribe cross country, this is the automobile you should be using.
Dad, I forgot. Why aren't we flying?
Because getting there is half the fun.
I don't know why they call this stuff hamburger helper. It does just fine by itself, huh?
You're the gourmet around here, Ed. Okay, let's go. Come on, Edna.
Lay off, lay off.
I can't accept a check. Vicky, can I help you with that Kool-Aid?
Sorry, folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
What? This is no longer a vacation. It's a quest. It's a quest for fun. The Griswolds are one hell of a family, huh? I better check under the hood. Okay, let's go. Come on.
Don't you want to look at the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, honey. It's great. Let's go.
Very few of us know about the wars fought in the shadows that have raged on this planet.
This world is burning, and it was you who lit the match.
Do you feel responsible?
Why haven't you called any of your special friends?
This is personal. That invasion is here, Brody.
And I need you in your war machine armor.
You're the most wanted man on the planet.
You don't know what they have planned for you.
Fury, we're gonna be very careful now. This war is one I have to fight. Alone.
This is just the beginning.
Where are the Avengers?
You're in no shape for this fight that lies before us. Old friend.
Well, Mama always said I was special.
Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed some of those clips. It was quite fun. Hammer House of Horror was one of those treats that my mum let me watch on a Friday evening after the news. I think it was on about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. It was just an hour-long program, and it was just a joy to watch Hammer horror films again. So that was great. Waterworld, I mean, there's 3 different cuts of that. It's been on telly a million times. There are fun things to see in that film, and it's such a shame it had such a bad production. I'm looking forward to watching that again. I'll probably choose the one I haven't seen, to be quite honest. What we have to remember a little bit about Disney at the moment and Marvel is that Secret Invasion was what they call a summer event in comics. Now, what does that mean for somebody who doesn't watch comics? Marvel have a range of comics. They've got all these different characters. They've got the Avengers, Spider-Man, Hulk, Thor. It goes on and on and on. And every single one of them has got their own comic. When a summer event comes on, they invent a new comic called a mini-series, and it's usually about 7 issues long. And what they tend to do is, in this 7 issue, they do a core story. But then everything that's going on, because Marvel is totally interwoven within itself, that if something is going on in a core story, it will affect also all the other characters. So there will be Secret Invasion Spider-Man, Secret Invasion Avengers, Secret Invasion Thor, Secret Invasion Hulk, Secret Invasion The Invaders, Secret Invasion X-Men, so forth and so forth. In the end, by the time you've got every single issue, including the 7 core stories, you've read over 100 comic books over a period of 2.5 months, because it's a summer event. That's a massive thing, and they're doing that in 10 episodes for an audience where a comic book is not the easiest thing to tell as a story. So when people turn around and go, I don't understand it, or the stories are weak, or all of that sort of stuff, you got to remember its background, and the audience is sort of like a teenage audience, which you then is hopefully there for a more mature audience. So I'm going to give Secret Invasion a chance, and I'm hoping that other people are going to open their eyes a little bit and not dismiss it. Oh, another Disney Marvel thing, what a shit, I'm going to hate it instantly. This is going to slot in with this film that I've got to see. No. There will be parts and threads that will go into the films, and it's done on purpose. But I do understand if you're not into superhero stuff, it's not, you're not going to get anything from this. And to those people, I say, but then there's probably something about your life that we don't like about you. You know, it could be you're into, I don't know, opera. You could be into, I don't know, Japanese anime. You could follow heavy metal. Now, I'm not the biggest lover of heavy metal, but I'm not going to turn around and say, load of shit, all the people that like heavy metal are shit, all of that sort of stuff, right? It's just not in me. It's not for me as that audience. And that's where I'm going to leave that. And then there's one last thing that I promised to do something a long time ago for a mate, and he wanted to know how I collect my stuff. And I haven't tested this. I'm going to see whether it works. I'm going to close down the media player, put you back to media view. See if I can do this properly. And open up one of my collector series of databases. So we'll go with movie collector. So this is my database engine. And I can't show you totally how this works, because I'd usually do this on my phone. But generally, I would scan the barcode on the back of the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, and it would fill in these things. Now I'm going to have to do that manually, but there's still an easier way to doing it. You can do it by title, but you can also do it by barcode, right? So I'm going to do it by barcode and see if this works. So I've got in front of me National Lampoon's 4K, yeah, and it's quite new, so I'm hoping it's there because they update their databases minute by minute. So the back of the box here says that the barcode is 505 189 224 224 3148. Hopefully I've got that right. And it says search. There we are. It's found National Lampoon's Vacation. It's listed it as 4K. It tells you the director is, who's in it. I can change the cover if I want. It tells me the IMDb rating. And all I do is click add this movie to my collection. And then I can tell it where it is. So I'm going to say it's in my film collection. I'm the owner. I bought it from Zavi, I think. Zavi. I've seen it, yes. Purchase date, well, I'll fill that in. When did it arrive? It actually arrived Friday, so that would be somewhere around the 23rd of the 6th, 2023. One quantity, no tags. Add to my collection. Bang! There we are. Now, that's now put that in here, look. And you can see that National Lampoon's was made in 1983, 98 minutes. And obviously there are some gaps. Now, what you can do is that you can edit this, or you can just look down here. Look, you can see it's got the picture in. I can put my own rating in, the plot. It's even got the trailer. It will play the trailer if I click this. Then it tells me how many discs it is, where I bought it from, some links, when I purchased it, etc., etc. Now I can go into more details because I can click edit movie, and I can then put in a title sort, what the original title is. I can look at the back of the box and see if it's correct. Yes, it is 98 minutes. There's a movie release date which I could look at because all it's got is 1983. I can look that up if I want to and put some more information in. There's the cast and crew. What edition I've got is 4K UHD. The packaging is... Let's have a look. It's not a custom case. It's not a HD case. It's a slip case. Yeah, I'd say it's a slip case. Edition. Well, it says it's one. Look on the back here. 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray. So there's two. So 2-disc edition. I can fill in the rest of them a little bit later on. I can put that it's any region, which it's not, because the Blu-ray is region locked. But you can put what you want in. You can put the audio tracks in. This is Dolby Atmos, Dolby Digital, Dolby Surround, Dolby True Atmos. Screen ratio, it's 2:35:1. Anyway, I can do all that a little bit later on, but I'll put Dolby Atmos there in. Just make sure that I think episodes. So if this was a TV series, I can put that in there. There's my personal detail. There's the cover for it. And when I click OK, it'll fill in some of these things. Look, so it's got 2-disc in there now. Dolby True Atmos is listed in there. And the thing about it is I can then click on the cloud and say sync, and it puts the information into the cloud so that I'll never lose it. If I lose this program, I can download it again. But the wonderful thing about it that I like is you can put statistics in. So you can click on statistics. And by the way, my movie database I've got thousands of films I've got to put in. So according to this, I've got 585 movies, 998 TV series, 3,844 episodes, and the total runtime is 263 days, 17 hours and 19 minutes on 3,019 discs in 4 formats, and the total purchase price is £5,311.81. And here's my most recent additions. It says here I've got 706 DVDs, 602 Blu-rays, 188 4K discs, 89 Blu-ray 3D discs. Like I say, all this is old information. I need to basically keep going in here. Whether I've seen it or not, movies by rating. As you can see, I've got very few that are in the 10. Got a few 9s, mostly 7s, look, mostly in the middle grounds. Movies by year, look, you can see I bought a heck of a lot in 2008 and so forth, and not so much this year. And if you've ever watched my blogs, you know I've bought no end this year. So it says here, look, I've done 14. So I've got no end of films that I've got to put into this database. Here's my movies by engineer. Look, I've got action 759, 570 science fiction, 521 adventure, 485 comedy, drama, horror, so forth and so forth. Here's by movies by director. I've got more Steven Spielberg films than anything else. But then again, I haven't filmed everything else. Look, Ridley Scott's here, Sam Raimi's here, all of that. And this is the reason why I think that the collector series of stuff it's just such a lovely product. You know, there's Animal House there. Look, it links to the trailers, it plays them, it tells you where I bought it from. You know, it's just brilliant. And like I say, I've got my statistics for it. It uploads to the cloud, and I hope you found that sort of like a little bit enjoyable. Now, they do that in a range. They do comics. Let me just quickly show you the comic one because I think it's a little bit more accurate. Comic collector, here we go. And I'll bring up the statistics for this. Again, it's not totally up to date. I've got another 3,000 comics to add. I totaled it up the other day. I'm going to purposely look at updating my comic collection database over the winter period. So on the left hand side are all the comics. Look, you can see that Spider-Man Limited Series, One Shot, Spider-Woman, Submariner, all of those are there. And if I go to statistics on this, probably a little bit better. There we are. Comics by series. The Amazing Spider-Man 444, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2 404, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5 292, Classic Marvel Figurine Collection, etc., etc. Most recent editions, so you can see I'm well behind. Cover price. This is another thing, so it hooks up to an auction site, this one. So the total value of my comics at the moment is £14,328 based on 455 comics, for which I paid £2,250 for. The purchase price of £13,076.37 based on 3,250, and a cover price of £18,958 based on 6,139 comics. If you look here, the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 50, which is a John Romita senior cover, is now valued at $375. The John Romita cover underneath that, which is issue number 41A, is $375. The Death of Gwen Stacy, which is issue 122A, is worth $300, so forth and so forth. And you'll probably see that the top end of this bracket is all John Romita Senior, because he's just died. Go figure. Value by sales. Here we go. By series, should I say. So most of my collection is mostly worth in Spider-Man. Then value versus raw and slabbed. I've got nothing slabbed. I've never taken it to a comic dealer and said, can you slab this, put it in a piece of plastic so I can never read it again, and grade it. Here's my key comics. 276 key comics. 42 of them are major key comics. What that basically means is first appearance of something, first issue of something. Comics by key category. First appearance, look, quite a few. Origin stories, second appearance, deaths, covers. Comics by publisher. It's mostly Marvel, look. This is a Marvel catalogue of my stuff. Comics by grade. Most of my comics are mint because I bought them from brand new. And then you've got the stuff that I bought or kept all the way through. Comics by release date. There we are, look, 2004. Going back, look, I've got quite a few there. Not so many in the earlier years. 65, 66, 67. All the way up here. And you can see, look, I did a big spurt of adding my comic collection in 2019. But again, I've dropped back. I haven't done too much. The pandemic and everything sort of takes things away. Comics by creator. There we are. Now, you'd think I'd have an awful lot of Stan Lee, but he's not even listed. So, Axel Amonto, Nick Lowe, Joe Kamanga, Joe Quesada, yeah. Tom DeFalco, yeah. Jim Shooter, yeah. Comics by character, look, Spider-Man, Mary Jane, J. Jonah Jameson, May Parker, Captain America, The Thing, Mr. Fantastic, Joseph, Robbie Robertson, Invisible Woman, Spider-Woman, look, it goes all the way down. So it's Mary Jane Watson Parker, she was married, and Mary Jane Watson when she wasn't married. It just goes on and on and on. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's interesting. I think the statistics speak for themselves. I don't think you get anything like that with some of the other bought products. And like I say, it all depends on how important your collection is. I certainly know that if I go to an insurance agent, I'm sure I'm in a better position now to turn around and say, my collection's worth 15,000. I'd like to take out a policy for that, please. And with that, I'm going to say salute. Let me go to the proper camera and do that. There we are. I'm going to say salute to you. Hope you've enjoyed my waffle, my ramblings, and I hope to see you next week. But most of all, be good for yourself and have a great weekend and a great week. Bye-bye.